Hi everyone, welcome to homework 1.7b. So today for homework you are first going to review these notes here. Just make sure to read through this carefully. It's going over again the idea if you have something in which you have an untrue statement. So here this equation ends up with 1 equals 0 or 4 equals 0. Those are not true, right? Those are not equal to each other and therefore there is no solution. Again, this is also true if you end up with saying x equals 4 divided by 0. You somehow end up with a division of 0. This is not going to be true and therefore there is no solution. The other example that they give you though is that if you end up with x equals x, it's very tempting to divide by x. And the key point here is that generally speaking, we don't divide by the variable we're solving for because this is going to cause you to get a false equivalency, right? 8 does not equal 1. And then you're not going to find out what x equals. But if you have an x equals x situation, then and a different coefficient, the only way that that would be true is if x equals 0. And so if instead of dividing by x, you move x to the other side by subtracting or adding or doing the inverse operation, depending on whether it's being added or subtracted, that you will end up with something x equals 0, and then therefore that means x equals 0. So again, the key point here is that usually we don't divide by the variable we're solving for. All right, so that's just a quick review of the reading that you needed to do. This part right here, we're going to jump right into the homework. It shouldn't take you too long, so I'm going to speed through pretty quickly. All right, so the first one says match each equation with the equivalent equation. Some answer choices are not used. So 3x plus 6 equals 4x plus 7. If I'm looking for the match here, the first step I would take to modify this would be to either move the 6 or the 7 to the other side, right? By subtracting it on both sides. Because I want to move my constants and make my constants, put those together. So if I were to subtract 6 from both sides, I would end up with 3x equals 4x plus 1. Okay, I don't see that as an answer option on the right-hand side over here. So instead, I'm going to say, well, if I were to do 3x plus 6 equals 4x plus 7 and subtract 7 from both sides, again, that first step to be to move a constant, then I'm going to get 3x minus 1 equals 4x. There, I do have a solution that matches, and that is D. All right, number 2. Number 2, when I see it immediately, I see that there's distributive property. So my first instinct would be to go ahead and distribute that 3, and that's going to give me 3x plus 18. Remember, you have to distribute through the parentheses, equals 4x plus 7. And immediately, I see an answer, option B, that matches that. All right, number 3, I have 4x plus 3x equals 7 minus 6. Well, the most obvious thing to do here is to combine your like terms because they're already on the same side of the equation. So 4x and 3x is going to be 7x, and 7 minus 6 is going to be 1. I immediately see that that is equation E. All right, let's take a look at the next part down below. So my says that equations A and B have the same solution. This is equation A, this is equation B. She says that they have the same solution. Explain why this is true. All right, so which of these statements shows us this is true? So I can see here that originally in equation A, she had a negative 3 outside of the parentheses, so part of distributive property. And then in equation B, that negative 3 is no longer there, which means because this is multiplication here, she had to have divided. And I can see that here on the other side, I now have negative 8, and I can tell that she divided 24 divided by negative 3. Okay, so looking at our answer options, did she add 3 to both sides? No, that would be a terrible move because this multiplication, we can't suddenly just start adding and subtracting things. B, apply the distributive property. So if she applied it, it would now be negative 3x minus 21. So that's not true. C, subtracting both sides. Again, that's the same problem as A. What we have here, even though there's a negative sign in front of that 3, what we have here is multiplication. So we're not subtracting or adding anything. D, dividing both sides of the equation by A by negative 3 gives us this equation. And yes, we saw that above. When we divide 24 divided by negative 3, we get negative 8. That looks like it's good and checks out. All right, Is 0 a solution to 2x plus 10 equals 4x plus 10? Explain or show your reasoning. So to show my reasoning, would go ahead and substitute 0 into the equation and see if that is true. Okay, so if you get a true statement, then 0 is a solution to the statement. So your job is to continue that and show me and explain why that is true. All right, number 4 says, Kieran says that a solution to this equation must also be the solution for this equation. Write a convincing explanation as to why this is true. So there's two ways that you can explain this to me. One is that you can go ahead and solve. So if you choose that, you should show me your work for solving it. Or 2, you can show me what legal moves did she take to get from, how did she get from equation 1 to equation 2. So you can explain it to me either way. You can either solve it and prove it to me, or you can explain in words how Kieran got from the first equation to the second equation. Again, using a legal move. All right, so that's for you. You must do that. Tell me. All right. Okay, number 5. The Entrepreneurship Club is ordering potted plants for 36 of its sponsors. So we have 36 people. We know that information. One store charges $8.50 for each plant, so that'd be 36 times $8.50 plus a delivery fee of $20. Okay, so that equation would be $8.50 times 36 plus a constant rate of 20 for that delivery fee equals the total, right? Now, another equation, 320 equals x plus 750 times 36, represents the cost of ordering potted plants at a second store. So this other equation is for a different store. Okay. What does x represent in the situation? Well, so 750 times 36 must be the cost per plant. So 750 is cost per plant. 36 is number of people or number of plants that we're buying, and 320 is the total. So we know that in the first equation we had a delivery fee, that constant of $20. So let's see what our options are. A, the cost for each potted plant at the second store. Nope, that would be $7.50. The delivery fee at the second store. Ooh, we know that was the constant for the first one. That seems to be what we're missing in the second one. Let's look at C. The total cost. No, we know the total cost would be this 320 because that's what it equals. And then D, the number of sponsors. Well, we have the number of sponsors is 36, and we see that right here in the equation, so that is not true. It has to be B. All right, number 6. Which equation is equivalent to the equation 5x plus 30 equals 45? All right, so when you're doing ones like this, you can go ahead and solve for x and see if it works in each of these answer options, or you can see if you can go from this to a legal move of this, right? If there's somehow a connection between them. So letter A says 35x equals 45. If I were to do that, that would mean that I combined these two. And I cannot combine those two because they are not like terms. 30 does not have an x with it, so therefore they cannot be added together. B says 5x equals 75. That would be if I added 30 to both sides or 30 to the other side. But if I add 30 here, I would still have 30 on the side and have a plus 60. The appropriate move is to subtract 30, which would give us 5x equals 15. And so we know that this one does not work. Letter C is factoring out that 5 and saying, well, if we were to distribute 5 through here, right, we'd get 5x plus 150 equals 45. That's not the same as 5x plus 30, so that cannot be true. So D, let's check it out. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 6 is 30 equals 45. That does in fact work, so D is our best answer option. All right, your code word for today is panda. Again, your code word for today is panda. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that now. All right, number 7, the Environmental Science Club is printing t-shirts for its members. It's 15 members. The printing company charges a certain amount for each shirt. A certain amount for each shirt. So that's the part we don't know. That's X. Plus a setup fee of $20. If the t-shirt costs a total of $162.50, how much does the company charge for each shirt? So I'm going to give you the equation. It'd be 15 times, 15 members times the cost of each shirt, which we don't know, plus $20 for that setup fee, and the total of $162.50. So your job is to solve for x and tell me what that is, okay? So for number 7, x equals blank. You got to continue that using that equation. All right, number 8 is interpreting this graph. And so it says, mark the point on the graph that shows the temperature in Celsius when it is 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit is here, Celsius is here. So 60 degrees Fahrenheit is here. If we go up and look where it meets, let me zoom in a little, where it meets the graph, that would be right about here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark a point right there. So that's done. Letter B says mark the point on the graph that shows the temperature in Fahrenheit when it is 60 degrees Celsius. So now I'm doing the opposite. I'm looking at 60 degrees Celsius and finding where it meets the line. That's here. It's approximately 140 degrees Fahrenheit. That's done there. Letter C says water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Use the graph to approximate the boiling temperature in Fahrenheit or confirm it if you knew what it is. So here you should be writing down, that's terrible, not a straight line. Here you should be writing down, if the water is 100 degrees Celsius, how much does it have to be in Fahrenheit in order to be boiling, okay? So look at where 100 degrees Celsius meets the line for Fahrenheit. What is it going to be in Fahrenheit? You can answer that yourself. Letter D says the equation that converts Celsius is here. Use it to calculate the temperature in Celsius when it is 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So to do this, you're going to substitute 60 in here, right? That's the only hint I'm giving you because you can do this. You can use your calculator to convert 5/9 to a decimal. You can also go ahead and just multiply through. Once you get 60, C equals 5/9 times 60 minus 32 is going to give you 28, right? You can multiply through. With fractions, we multiply top across, bottom across. So 5 times 28 divided by 9, that's going to give you your degrees in Celsius when it is 60 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, our last two problems. Select all the equations that have the same solution as 2x minus 5 equals 15. Again, you can solve for x, and you can say that 2x equals 20, therefore x equals 10, and see wherever you go, where does that work? So 2 times 10 equals 20, that doesn't work. 2 times 10 equals 20, that does work, right? And so forth and so on. So I'm giving you B. I'm going to tell you there are 2 more. See if you can find those 2 more. And then lastly, number 10, Diego's age is D. Diego age D is 5 more than 2 times his sister's age S. This is represented by this equation here. Which equation is equivalent to the equation D equals 2S plus 5? So this is the equation. You don't need to make it. They already made it. Your job is to figure out which of these is equivalent. So again, you're looking to see what did they do here. Here in letter A, they've given us the distributive property. So this would be 2S plus 10. That does not match up with this one. So this cannot be true. Okay? D minus 5 equals 2S. Ooh, well, if we were to say D equals 2S plus 5, and we were to subtract 5 from both sides, that does in fact give us D minus 5 equals 2S, because 5 minus 5 is 0. And so B seems to work. I would encourage you to go ahead and check C and D to see if either of those are also equivalent. Okay, I'm just going to suggest that you also try C and D and see if you think those are equivalent as well. But we can tell immediately that B, oops, I didn't mean to erase it, B is in fact equivalent. That's it for your homework. Happy homeworking. Remember to write your code word at the top of your paper nice and big so I can see it and you can earn extra credit. And I will see you tomorrow.